The most dedicated man at my gym is a puppet, and I'm his new coworker. As I walk into the cardio class, I immediately look if my favorite spot is available. Central row, straight down the middle. Yes, I'm in luck today, I'm thinking as I unroll my yoga mat. You may wonder what's so special about this spot, and the answer is slightly unusual. Thing is, there's this regular who does every move perfectly. When I can get a spot directly behind him, I don't have to worry about the instructor too much. I won't lose track of the workout, even if I completely let my mind wander. He is in the same spot every time, and his level of commitment is top tier. He always does things with this motivating intensity, never taking shortcuts or breaks. As always, I follow his lead. And as never, when the class is winding down, I find myself lingering in the room for a bit. I feel like a stalker, but just once I want to see him leave the room. This gym is near my house, and it's on the fancy side. So naturally, I only got a membership there 4 months ago, after landing my first big girl job after college. I like instructor-led classes, and usually go 3 to 4 times a week. Cardio, yoga, weights, you name it. And since I started, this guy has been in every class I went to. No exaggeration, there has been absolutely no exception to this. Also, I never see the man speak to anyone. He doesn't even high-five the person beside him when the instructor calls for it at the end. The only place he ever looks at is the mirror or around himself, at no one in particular. The more I think about it now, the stranger it seems. Why have I never thought about this before? I just used the guy as a bit of a crutch in my fitness journey, and the little spikes of curiosity never lingered past the time a class would end. Great, now I'm following the guy. With a mixed sensation of thrill and shame, what the hell am I doing? I take up an elliptical near the man's change room where he went afterward, and I immediately regret it, as the man exits the room just moments later and heads straight for the door. If someone was watching, I suspect that me following him was rather obvious. I had to practically sprint to leave the gym before he turned a corner, damn it. I suppose it's a good thing the guy did not seem to be watching anything at all. He walked at a steady pace, with no athletic spring to his step now, and entered a vintage shop just 2 blocks away. I got a jolt of happiness, realizing that I can follow him there without arousing suspicion. As I pulled on the door, I was trying to see a way to strike up a conversation with the guy. Nothing like a little vintage shopping after a workout. Lovely Wednesday evening, isn't it? God knows remote work didn't help my social skills. The shop was empty. I mean, no one by the cash register, no attendants, and no guy from the gym. What the hell? I looked around, searching for exists. The only other one seemed to be at the very back. Employees only sign was located conveniently on the right side of the door. If it was open a little more, I might not have seen it at all. Makes sense. Some of it looked in different stages of restoration process. The space was surprisingly large, most of it empty. This seems expensive, I thought, in the city where every square meter was worth its weight in gold. But, wait. The rest of the room was not empty. I began walking toward some tall containers at the back, lined up in a row. They were almost blended into the wall. Except, no, they were transparent. Looking at the shapes inside the containers, I felt a chill run through my body and fought an urge to run. Strange shapes in the containers took form as I approached, and a morbid, uneasy feeling rolled over me. Each was about the size of a small shower cabin, and I could see human-sized mannequins standing inside, one in each. They were exceptionally well done. The faces looked almost real, if only too still, carrying no expression. A noise from behind made me jump and turn around at the same time. The guy from the gym was walking toward me, and I froze in place, realizing what his face looked like. Exactly like the rest of the mannequins in the containers. I wanted to back away, but my legs suddenly grew roots. I simply watched as the guy walked into an empty container, got inside and closed the door. He then turned around to face me and froze in place, blending in with the others. I had no curiosity left in me, only an intense desire to be anywhere else. But as I turned around, a small elderly man stood right between me and the door. He was smiling lightly, and I recognized him. Even. "Well, hello there," he said, and the simple words sent shivers through my spine. "You shouldn't go into the back rooms of the stores. Someone might think you're trying to steal something." "I'm sorry," I began to say. "I was just—" He kept talking, not really pausing for my apology. "Unless you're an employee, of course. But don't worry, I don't think you're a thief. Since you saw my little setup, let me explain. My office is just over there," he gestured to his left, at an open door. It was the same color as the wall, which explained why I walked right past it on the way to the containers. A desk with literally mountains of papers and folders took almost all the space in a crammed room. Going in there was the last thing I wanted. But the man didn't move, and I noticed that he was standing directly between me and the way back to the shopping area. His outstretched hand stayed in the air, and he didn't move. He clearly wanted me to go in his office first. "It's okay," I begun. "I'm actually running late for—" I paused. God, why am I so bad at lying for a fitness class? Cancellation is pretty expensive, so I think I'm just gonna... I started to move a little to the side, aiming to go around the man to the exit doors. I was relieved when he didn't move, letting me go around him. I accelerated my step and only fell short of running as I got to the double doorway, simultaneously noticing that it wasn't open like I left it. After a few pulls and pushes on the doors, all futile, I turned around. Shopkeeper was standing in the same place, facing me now, his smile gone. I said, "I'd like to see you in my office." He didn't gesture this time. After a few seconds, I began to walk shakily toward the small room. Moving slowly, I searched for other exits, trying not to turn my head too obviously. There were none. I hesitated in the doorway, then stepped into the room, feeling the man practically breathing down my... As I sat on the edge of the stool in front of the desk, Shopkeep went around it and sat on the chair on the other side, facing me. He didn't even close the door to the room. He didn't have to. I couldn't help but notice that his chair was significantly higher, so he appeared to look down at me, even though I was a head taller. Not that he needed the not-so-subtle intimidation prop. I was terrified as it was. I could not begin to imagine what he was about to say, but one thing was clear. He is in control here. "Thank you for joining me," he said with a smile, which now seemed crooked and sarcastic. As you might know, this is my store. Has been for years. I trade in many things from the rarest historical gems to fridge magnets from the 1980s. However, there are a few things I sell that are not for mass audience. On a referral basis only, I grant wishes. He paused, looking straight at me. I felt like he expected a question, but the gap between what he said and zombies in shower cabins was too large for me to formulate anything. Wishes? All kinds. Not all can be worked with. It's really a case-by-case kind of enterprise, with a case-by-case kind of payment system. He paused again, but this time I couldn't even mirror his words back at him. Payment can take many forms. Borrowing luck from the future, health of someone who trusts you, you name it. However, some, he grimaced, think they can change their mind after the payment is agreed upon. In that case, they get charged in time. Their time. The man never introduced himself, but I suddenly remembered his name was Roy, or at least that's what everyone called him back in the day. Roy reached for a tall pile of paper folders on the table, grabbed it, and placed the whole thing on the floor beside him. My feeling of being entirely exposed intensified. I guess papers served as a sort of barrier that was now gone. The man you saw owes me a year of his life. For a year, he does what I say, and only what I say. In his case, he is to attend every gym class at Best Fit. The gym gets an enthusiastic client that serves as a live advertisement. I get a modest payment in return. Roy paused. And the other men? They all owe you something? I was just as confused. But what I've seen was about as crazy as this explanation. He smiled again. They all owe me time. In a way, I'm improving their life. Imagine how healthy Tommy will come out if this, being in the gym 24/7, I am not cruel. I don't make my debtors do anything that will harm them or will damage their reputation too much. They're all repeat clients. After all, most will return with more wishes after their term is over. I was just processing this concept of supernatural slavery when he sharply returned me to reality. Now, we have to decide what to do with you, Miss Lisa. My name was Elizabeth, and friends called me Elle. I can only guess he knew that. When you entered my storage space today, what did the sign on the door say? I felt transparent in front of him. It's like he read my mind earlier when I tried to justify going in there. What sign? My voice came out sheepish and small. His head shook in mocking disapproval. Now, there's no need for lying. Think again. What did the sign say? I suddenly relaxed, physically feeling my shoulders drop and jaw unclench. I blurted out, "Employees only." The wave of calm washed over me and moved on my stomach, twisted up again. Somehow, admitting this felt like a death sentence. Exactly. Now, Miss Lisa, one thing you should know about me is I dislike untruth most of all. I'm going to give you an opportunity to set this right. As you can see, I'm long overdue for an assistant with some accounting skills. His eyes went over the disorganized papers all over the room. You will work for me starting today. But I already have a job, and I can't just quit, I said hastily. I'm really sorry. I really didn't meant to break the rules. You can refuse, of course. I can't make you work for me, he smirked again. But in that case, we will have to come up with a fair punishment for trespassing in my store. I say, about 3 months in time will suffice. I might just send you to the same gym as Tommy. You're athletic, the gym will benefit from your endorsement. Sadly, people who serve their dues in time are not capable of high cognitive activity, and my paperwork will stay in this sorry state. He shook his head in a gesture of resigned regret. For a moment it seemed like he wanted me to feel sorry for him, until he abruptly stopped and looked me dead in the eyes, revealing the theatrical nature of it. "The choice is yours now. I already said I can't quit my job. And I'm not an accountant. My degree was in business management, and I only knew enough about accounting to know that debit and credit are better off when someone else is balancing them. I don't know what kind of operation you are running here, but I have no intention to be part of it. If you want to call the cops because I trespassed in your store, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm leaving." My confident tone took me by surprise. For a brave moment, I forgot that I couldn't actually leave, not unless the doors magically unlocked. Roy didn't seem to react, except with a slow snapping motion with the fingers of his right hand. The move was so slow that no sound came out. Inside my head, though, his voice rang clear. "Get up and walk." It was a truly strange feeling. My body began to move, with no prompting from me. I felt the motion as I stood up, muscles tensing, stretching, and yet I had no part to play in it. As my body started to walk, moving slowly and awkwardly, I felt as if my heart was squeezed by a cold fist. Quietly panicking, I resisted the movement, trying to take control of my own body. My limbs felt numb, like when an arm or a leg falls asleep, and I continued walking, heading toward the back of the storage room. There was no verbal command in my head, but that's the direction I was steered toward. As I approached the shower-style containers, internally screaming, I stopped a couple steps away from an empty one on the side. His voice rang in my head. "Are you choosing to pay your debt in time?" "No," I screamed, hearing my own voice and realizing my body belongs to me again. "I will work for you. 3 months, right? 3 months. You start today, but it's already 7 p.m., so I'll let you go home. I expect you here tomorrow at 9. Don't be late." I moved slowly and carefully, anticipating that numbing feeling to take over me again. But my body behaved as it should, and I took several steps toward the exit, keeping my eyes on the man. He kept my gaze for a second, and then walked toward his office, seemingly losing interest. Somehow, I was sure that the doors would open this time. And yes, as I pushed it, the door slid open easily. As I walked through the public part of the store, slowly and still hesitant of my body's cooperation, I looked back at the rear doors. The employee-only sign was printed on an A4 piece of paper and attached to the door with tape, one top corner coming off already. Hardly looks like an ironclad contract, I thought, and yet now it ruled my life.